Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to talk about the, pros and cons of build the computer yourself versus have the computer shop build it for you. This isn't the computer shop having built a pre-built system as much as more so having a system custom built. So whether you're custom building your own system or you having sourced the parts and having the computer shop custom build it for you. Also at the end of this video, I want to list some experiences I've had for both building and also having a computer store build for me. But anyway, let's get to it. First things first, building it yourself, start with the pros, then I'll get to the cons. It's fun. Building a computer is really fun. It's something different to do. So if you're sitting at home bored, just find any random person that has a spare couple of $1,000s and build a computer. It saves money. Having someone else build your system that works at a computer shop costs money. So building it yourself actually saves money. That money saved could go towards a different part, whether it be a better CPU, a better GPU, more RAM, an extra hard drive or SSD. It saves money so that you can spend that money elsewhere on the system. But all in all, it is very helpful to build it yourself if you're on a tight budget, because that's one thing less that you've got to pay for. Now, depending on what your friendship circle is and what your family does, it might be bragging rights. In all honesty, having built your own system might be special enough in your friendship group, your family, to go, hey, look what I did. So basically, you've got something that you can be proud of, like you have done that, you have built it, you have created it, kind of thing. Lastly, the feeling from having built it to then going on and hooking it all up to the keyboard, the speakers, the monitors, turning it on, seeing it post for the first time successfully, and booting into Windows or the BIOS is amazing. Just knowing that it works, you've built it, you've pushed the on button, it's finished posting, no problems, and it's a good feeling. Like computer-wise, you have created life. But as out of every lot of pros, there's also cons, and unfortunately, building it yourself is not perfect. Firstly, it takes time. Depending on how difficult the build is, it can take all day. At the same time though, you can build a computer in a few hours without all the pretty lights and whatnot. It be more function over form, it'll be quicker and easier, and heck, even with installing Windows and whatnot, it may not take a full day. Probably getting the whole computer set up might. You also need space, you need space to work with. There's lots of parts, so you have lots of boxes. You need to lay your computer case down on its side so that you can put the motherboard in and whatnot. There's a lot of space needed to build a computer, so if you don't have the space required, it can be a bit difficult. If something goes wrong, building a computer can be excessively frustrating. Like with my girlfriend's computer, with the lighting problems I had, it was frustrating. The computer worked, or as a computer. So build-wise, it wasn't quite as frustrating, but it was frustrating. Also, the idea of you could break a component is a bit stressful. That there is a con. And if you do break a component, that is costly. Now, for the PC shops. It's convenient. Like if you don't have much spare time, it's just convenient just to go, hey, here's the money that I need to pay you for this, can you do this for me? So in a way, it's a service to the people. So it's just really convenient and simple. If it's your first system, let's face it, they will probably do a better job making it look good than what you will. But at the same time, if you don't get the practice, you're not going to get good. The peace of mind of having a paid professional do it for you is good. And it should make it less frustrating. But having someone build it for you does take the fun out of building it yourself. It also takes away the appreciation for the system. I found when I had the PC shop build the original iteration of my computer, I had less appreciation for it. Whereas when I rebuilt it and had it post and everything, I've got a bit more appreciation for it. It's more my baby than I have paid someone to do it for me. If the person building your computer does something wrong, it actually might cost you a lot of money, and therefore it being frustrating at the same time, because you have given your parts and your money to a paid professional for them to break things. So that can be frustrating, and yeah. I do want to share some experiences I've had for both sides, as I've already stated. But first things first, I want to get out of the air is I've only had a computer shop build me a computer for me once. And that was the original iteration of my PC. And well, it wasn't my choice for that. My choice was to build it. But well, I let the women in my life convince me otherwise. I love you both. Also, I won't be naming the PC shop either. It is just PC shop. And I want to state that because this is just from one experience. You might find that some shops might do a better job. You might find some shops do a worse job. It depends on who it is building your system. But I just want to put that out there, that what I am going to say isn't reflective on all PC shops that builds computers for clients. And the fact that system builders are human, they are allowed to make mistakes. So for the PC shop, firstly, they had me verbally agree that if a part ended up being broken, it wasn't their fault, that their risks are the same as my risks if I were to build it myself, and that's understandable. I get that if a part didn't work out of the box, that it's not their fault because it isn't tech, it wouldn't even be my fault. But the one thing I always questioned was, what if they drop something, or on the slim chance of producing some form of static discharge and they weren't wearing the like an anti-sag wrist strap or whatnot that you'd expect that a professional would, because that just safeguards them, it's safeguarding the client's product and everything. So if they weren't using like an anti-sag wrist strap or a mat or anything, and they killed a motherboard or a graphics card or a CPU through a static discharge, to me that would be their fault. They haven't taken the care of handling the components properly. I did have some issues with the computer, with some of the components. Okay, so my first issue was pretty simple in the long run. The power cable to the hard drive had either come loose in the drive home, or they just didn't plug it in properly for it to click. I'm not quite sure if that was their fault or drive home, but it was a problem I had when I got home. Months and months after, I was having a look in my system and I realized that they hadn't pushed in the 24 pin to the motherboard in all the way on one half of the 24 pin. That could have actually killed a component. The chance wasn't high, but it could have, it didn't, but still it was an issue. So I've fixed both of those. I found out when I was rebuilding the system actually, and not a major issue. It was the 2.5-inch SSD. They hadn't actually screwed it to its mount, so it was just sitting there loose. It's not a hard drive, there's nothing moving inside an SSD. On that logic, nothing was going to break, but still, peace of mind thing of let's just screw it in. Also, I went through the motherboard manual one day because I just felt like it, and I found out that they actually put the single stick of RAM in the wrong slot for that motherboard. And one other thing is, which actually wouldn't be their fault, I would imagine, unless they handled the RAM incorrectly, was a few days after I had the system, the heatsink from the RAM fell off. No joke, I turned the system on, the stock red fans I had on there lit up, and there was enough lighting where I could see the heatsink was actually completely off. The RAM had fallen completely off. It was actually lying on my water cooling tubings for my AIO. So that is something that I also fixed. Again, probably not their fault unless that they handled the RAM in some stupid way, because it was a hard thing to do. Like after I put on the heatsink back on and I tried to take it off and I couldn't. Yeah, it was a hard thing to take off. So I doubt that it was their fault as much as probably the manufacturer's fault of it just hadn't clicked in properly. But it wasn't the biggest deal, the RAM still worked. Now for my experiences from building PCs. Firstly, with my girlfriend's system that I got running here, I had issues with the lighting. The front fans I couldn't get working through the software originally. I had issues with the software with everything else. And I had a 120mm fan not spin. Talked to the manufacturer, got it all sorted, and at the end it's all working. Also, my mistake, it was a builder's mistake. It's one that anyone could do, where everything is labeled on the motherboard itself. I had made a mistake just through sheer confusion of where the labels were. And one of them was talking about the digital RGB header. And it was underneath a port that looks like a digital RGB header. It actually looked the part. And it wasn't. It was the SPDIF underscore R. I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but it was for that port. So when I tried to boot the system, it wouldn't boot. And once I figured out what the problem was, like a day later, I thought, wow, how stupid of me. But I got it all fixed up and it all works and lights up. So yes, every port on a motherboard is different, except for the digital RGB header / ARGB header for most boards, the 1-pin gap and 2 pins. And that's basically the same configuration pin layout for the SPDIF underscore O. So yeah, that was a builder's mistake, but that could happen to anybody. Do check with the manual is what I learned very quickly. So yeah, that's all I have for you. Personally, I prefer building the computer myself. It's much more fun, more appreciation of the system at the end. And that feeling of it posting successfully is amazing. I know that having a shop do it had less cons than build it yourself, but really at the end, they've got the same risks as you. The real only benefit to the shop is that it's convenient. Some of the other benefits could be null and void if they broke a component and you had to pay for it, and the fact they could do a better job of making it look pretty. You could do that yourself if you take the time. But yes, again, that's all I have for you. So I want to hear your experiences. So this is like my question of the week. Building the system yourself, like what were the good experiences? What were the bad experiences? Also, if you had a computer shop build a system for you that wasn't one of their pre-built systems, so you did all the parts yourself, whether you got them all from that shop or not, but it was a complete custom build, even for them. And what were your experiences from having the shop build them? But anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button down below. Be awesome. If you want to see more content by me, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. If you want to hit that bell notification so that you stay up to date when I upload videos. If not, just keep an eye on your subscription feed. That's what I do. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. See ya.